And we're back with more Echo.
Hello.
Yeah,
Alright.
this took a minute.
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and just run right into this. Last time, Carl was found, and unfortunately, he was found here with Brian. So, we're now here with Brian instead, while Carl goes on a fun car ride with Jeremy and Clint to another location. But for now, we have to deal with Brian, and this is not going to be fun. I'm just going to spoil that for everyone right here and now. At that moment.
Brace yourselves.
Oh yeah, definitely brace yourselves. At that moment, I hear a soft mumbling in the distance through the thin walls of the trailer. I freeze and hold my breath. It's a little ways off, but I'm almost positive that's Duke. The high, weaselly whine mixed with the occasional smoker's cough is unmistakable. It's coming closer, and I can start to make out what he's saying. That'd be you, Matt.
Because we're already fucked here. You think we can just let them go and all be fine?
I don't know who he's talking to, but the sound of the accompanying heavy, lumbering step. Is that DJ cooking?
I'm gonna take this, yes.
Oh, he accidentally knocked off the thing.
Okay, that was just really loud.
So
It's all good. Accompanying heavy, lumbering step gives me an idea.
It's worth it though, if we can figure out what the f is going on.
It sounds like they're right up against the trailer now. I can hear them walking around it, towards the small door on the right side of the kitchen.
Leo ain't seen shit yet, but I think it might be the otter. He's the one I seen last week.
The footsteps stop in front of the door, and I listen hard, my heart pounding in my chest.
I hope done anything to him. Beyond what you already done, that is.
Oh, hold on.
Yep, that's you, Seth.
Was protecting my property the first time. Haven't done nothing further.
Brian's uncharacteristically high-pitched voice sends chill up my spine, my fur flaring out with it.
You bet your ass you haven't. If you do any fucked up shit to these kids,
I stop breathing, staring at the ends of my feet.
I'm saying is we still got a chance to get out of this. What we've done is bad enough, but if we can get him to understand.
They stop talking, and that's when I hear Brian's heavy, labored breath. I'm not breathing at all, worried that they'll be able to hear it even though they already know I'm here. I let it out with a gasp as the door suddenly swings open, and Duke comes up the steps, looking around before spotting the lot of us.
You are one sick fuck.
I tense up as a massive shadow appears behind him, and it feels like the entire trailer tips a bit as Brian makes his way up the same steps. Brian's presence is so imposing and frightening that I don't even notice that Duke is now right next to me. I jump when he sets his hand on my left arm. I jerk my head to look at him wide-eyed.
Hey, calm down. We ain't gonna hurt ya.
Brian chuckles, and Duke shoots him a look. He turns his attention back to me, softening his expression, at least as much as he can with his scraggly, drug-fucked face.
We just need some information from ya.
I open my mouth to speak, but all that comes out is a dry squeak. Brian chuckles again and makes his way to stand to my right. I cringe away from him, and his stench of old sweat as he grins down at me with his yellow teeth. This Despite all the others being here, the two seem especially focused on me.
Man, get some fucking water.
Brian looks at Duke with a strange face before turning back to the kitchen.
Hey, don't worry about him. I know this thing.
Duke taps the metal collar around my neck with a finger.
Looks bad. But we just gotta hold you here for a bit.
The boys are squeak. They like it. The girlie is probably just like your wife.
Jenna is silent, daring not to provoke the two. Duke glares at him as Brian comes back from the kitchen with a ceramic mug.
You're too.
Brian visibly bristles, and his face loses any of its sick humor it once had. Duke clears his throat.
Things have been happening here, and we want to find out why.
What? Duke furrows his brows, like a kid trying to figure out something difficult.
You see, people ain't right in the head here.
No shit. Duke seems to immediately read my thought process because he holds up his hands and shakes his head.
Yeah, I know. What we're doing ain't exactly right in the head either.
Brian gives his dumb chuckle again, but I keep my face averted from him, partly because I really can't stand the smell.
But we're all fucked here. What I'm talking about is something else. Like what's been going on with the townsfolk. Bad dreams, strange behavior. Sound familiar?
I shift a little as I'm reminded about the past few days. Duke looks genuinely concerned. I look at the weasel's waistband and immediately see the handgun tucked into his pants there.
Hoping to stop it before any of this happened. But now,
Everything's gone to shit.
Brian finishes for him, and I can feel him move closer to the platform I'm laying on. Again, I avoid eye contact, not wanting to provoke him in any way.
yep. And it's only gonna get worse.
Duke just looks at me, like that's all the information that I need. I don't know what you're talking about. I see a twitch of irritation in Duke's face, and I hold my breath. I mean, what's happening out there? Duke shakes his head.
What's happening everywhere?
Duke looks back at the window suddenly, his fur standing on end. I look too, but all I see are the leaves and branches, the late afternoon sun filtering through them. Duke's quiet for a while before he starts speaking again, without turning around.
It happened to my granddaddy. My daddy. Now what's happening to me?
So, I'm just going to point this out for Harry again, because this is part of like one of the things I've noticed, and I keep wondering about this. So, they're saying then that it did happen at some point like around like the 60s or 70s.
Yes.
But that's the thing.
We talked about this before.
I know, and like that's the thing is that one is not documented as well. And it makes me like wonder what happened for them to like say, "Oh no, this happened at this point," but for them to not really document it as heavily as they did with the one in 1915.
I'm pretty sure it was the dude with his legs.
I mean, there's that. That definitely is a part
Who,
of
Chase?
Well,
But like the thing that I'm
Funny.
thinking about with all this is I'm trying to also think about what would have caused it, and I can't help but wonder if it was Sam dying back then.
maybe. I don't know when he died, but yeah, no, that it was. I
They're hinting that it's
Remember?
definitely around that time because they say like that like
I
they're
hate
spellbinding
this,
and-
man. I hate this because it means I have to go back and replay these games. Ah, look what you do to me, Alan. Look
You're
what you do to
welcome.
me.
You're welcome. And you know what? You gotta go through arches at some point because there are some things that
Yeah.
happen in arches, and you also have to read through all of the smoke room when it's done.
Yeah. Thank you for reminding me. You're gonna make me so happy.
You're welcome.
Yeah, this is what joy sounds like.
Oh, I'm so glad.
Your unbridled joy.
I'm so glad. It's like you're a member of the book club.
Uh,
I close my eyes, wondering if Duke is just as crazy as Brian. If he is, I doubt he even has a clue about what he's doing right now. Matt?
Nails missing? Cynthia drove off into the desert.
Duke turns around to look back at Micah.
Saw your cat friend screeching about on the river, road to the north.
Harry?
Heather?
She had a little revolver. Started pointing at me and telling me to get out of my truck.
Micah's brow furrows slightly, but otherwise he says nothing.
Tried calming her down, but she wasn't having it. Even fired off a shot in the air before taking any keys and hanging off toward her pop's place. Girl was on a warpath, haunted. Thing is, we've all got something after us, something bad. Won't let you leave when it starts.
What's after you?
I flinch as Brian speaks just above me, leaning down towards my face. I don't know what you guys are talking about.
Bullshit.
I flinch again as Duke's concerned demeanor immediately drops away.
Why do you think we came to get y'all?
He pauses, like I should actually know the answer.
Sans Micah here, who is already succumbing to something fierce to his own demons.
Bitch.
Micah mumbles from across the room, and I can see Duke's fur bristle. I feel myself starting to panic again with these two crazy hillbillies looming over my body. I don't know what... Duke slaps me, and I gasp in shock.
Hey,
You shut your fucking mouth before I stomp your jaw in!
Brian snaps back at Jenna before refocusing his attention on me.
I saw you hanging around this fucking town before you even got here. Late at night, lurking around.
I'm still cringing from the slap, and I keep my eyes closed, as if not seeing any of this is gonna make it stop.
And then once all your friends get here, all hell breaks loose. You think that's a fucking coincidence?
It's quiet for a moment, and all I hear is the rush of blood in my ears. Is this really happening? I feel Duke touch my arm again, and I flinch in fear.
Hey,
I feel like he wants me to look at him, so I slowly open my eyes, tears spilling out as I do. The blurry shape of Duke dances in front of me.
I'm not saying you did it, or that you wanted it to happen.
I don't say anything because I still don't know what he's talking about, but I know I can't tell him that.
It's just that you gotta know something. Anything. So that we can stop this.
Duke starts to pet my arm, and I shiver. Brian is breathing heavily next to me, and a glance at him shows his expression is more interested now, almost eager. I think about Leo, slumped over next to me. I want to cry out for help to him. Wait, I want to cry out. Oh, I said that right. All right.
Yeah.
I want to cry out for help to him, though what could he do beyond get himself hurt more? I'm utterly helpless, squirming in my own skin. Duke still hasn't answered my question. It makes no sense that they'd go so far as to kidnap us. But why? Why didn't you ask us? Why all of this? I lift my hands weakly, making the platform rattle. Duke's face darkens.
Because I've been asking Leo all week what the fuck you guys are doing, and he wouldn't say shit. Saw y'all
God
somewhere.
damn it, Leo.
You're welcome.
Well, I didn't know TJ was in here.
I mean,
I wasn't doing my TJ voice.
I mean, in Leo's defense, if a random crackhead walked up to you and said, "Hey, what are you all doing here?" My first response would probably also be "fuck off."
I will point out, we
True.
also
That's
did
fair.
encounter him earlier with Jenna, and the thing is, Duke is not, like, good about how he went about asking. He's like, oh yeah, you're up to some shady shit. Like, yeah, of course I would stop talking to you when you're, like, insinuating that I'm about to do something bad, when I'm not. So, go fuck off.
Yeah.
Saw y'all snooping around the Hendricks place. And he attacked me when I confronted him. You just stood there looking out the window. The same condescending look you bunch had always had.
My god, I never really like, realized how, I don't know, like, victim complex Duke had until now. Like, I guess I'm putting it together now that he kind of viewed himself as, like, an eventual victim of all of this.
Huh.
Because, like, he's saying, like, oh, they were condescending, and he's, like, talking about, like, oh, this happened to my daddy, this happened to my granddaddy. He never thought once that it might not be a bad idea to move the fuck out of the town you know this is gonna happen in.
I don't know if victim complex is the right word.
There's definitely something in here where he's basically just, he kind of, like, accepted this and, like, went and said, like, it's gonna happen, I'm going to just roll with shitty things happening to me. I don't know what that is.
It sounds
Right.
like he was more of a doomsday prepper than a victim.
But the thing is, like, I don't think that he was a doomsday prepper either. And I agree, victim complex is the wrong phrase. But he definitely gave up. Like, this is not like a doomsday prep. This is like I've given up and I've accepted that shit's gonna happen.
Learned helplessness.
Yeah, but the thing is like
No.
he's accepted that things are gonna happen, but he's like, okay, I know these things are gonna happen to me. How do I start working out to stop these things and move past it? Which sounds like doomsday prep to me.
See, that's the thing is, I would
Also,
agree
I
with you in
wouldn't
some
say
way.
that the fact that he like, oh, everybody's looking down on me, or at least with this group, I wouldn't say that's a victim complex on his end, because it has been confirmed multiple times that yes, this group does look down on a lot of these people.
I guess so, but like for me, I
Like the whole thing with Chase being like, ew, don't touch the junkie. You don't say that if you view that person as a person. You say
No,
that
I
if you're
will- I
like,
will
oh
agree
yeah,
with
they're
that on
lesser than
something.
me.
I would agree with that on some things for this. I would point out though that I guess I'm looking at like Duke and looking at like the stuff that he does, and it doesn't click to me because he's saying like, "Oh, I tried to stop this before it happened," but I just don't see how he really did. He may have like talked a couple times and he went through Leo, but obviously he didn't pay attention to this group that much because he would have known that Leo was on the outs with the group as a whole for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I would point out though that I guess I'm looking at like the stuff that he does, and it doesn't click to me because he's saying like, "Oh, I tried to stop this before it happened," but I just don't see how he really did. He may have like talked a couple times and he went through Leo, but obviously he didn't pay attention to this group that much because he would have known that Leo was on the outs with the group as a whole for a while. So like he kind of just like tangentially checked. It feels like.
I don't know. I feel like Duke is definitely like. I think you said the word best a while back, and that Duke is a cultist.
That is my initial read of him, but I'm starting to like look at this, and I'm also like putting this in context of like the smoke room and like putting into like the mind that like he's somehow Cliff's grandson, and Cliff told him shit went down in 1915, and then his father told him something went down like in the 60s or 70s, and like never once did he consider leaving the area. He just went, it happened to my daddy, it happened to my granddaddy, it's gonna happen to me.
It happened 4 times. I'm pretty sure the hysteria.
Yeah, there's also one that they do mention back in like the 80s. And that's the thing is like from route to route they don't really state how many times it's happened, but between all the routes it looks like it happened between 3 or 4 times. It's just that the 1880s one has so little information about it. And then the one in the 60s or 70s seem to have been like wiped under the rug. Like there's no record about it to the point where Chase doesn't even think about it, but it's brought up tangentially that this might have happened. That there's like small little things, but like
Yeah,
nobody
fair
talks
enough.
about it as heavily as they do with the 1915 one.
Also, I don't know. The reason why I say Doomsday Prepper is because Duke always seems to have a plan. Not good plans, but he always is the first one's like, okay, I know what's happening. Let me get a group. Let me start trying to do something. And just
guess.
somebody with a victim complex.
Oh, he just say,
Wait,
yeah.
I know, I'm not saying
Why
he
is
has
this always
victim
happening to
complex.
me, kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they would just like break down. He always seems to be like, even though his plans are really stupid and barely ever work, and it probably only make things worse. He always is the first person in these times to go like, okay, it's happening now. It's time to start doing stuff.
Yeah,
He's
I think
always like every time we see him, he's actively like, this is what should be the solution. Let me start working towards the solution.
I get you on that. Like the thing that's throwing me about all this still is I'm like putting a lot of pieces in my head together now, and it's a pattern of him having something bad happen to him, and he just kind of rolls with it, and like he got addicted to crack and everything. He works with Brian still. Brian fucking murdered his wife, and he still works with Brian. Brian made a
Well, I
fucking
mean-
jab at his wife just earlier in this conversation, and Duke didn't really do anything about it at this point.
Yeah, but then again, like I hate the fact. Why are you making me play devil's advocate here? I don't want to defend Duke. But anyway, back to defending Duke.
He's more defendable than Brian, in fairness.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, that is true. That is true. I
wouldn't call him likable, but he's not.
He's more understandable, is what I.
He's
Correct.
That's the
Brian
thing is you're
inhumane.
saying, like,
there's nothing
ter-
human about Brian.
Yeah.
But
There
you
is,
were
it's
saying
just
like
Brian's
terrible thing
size.
happens to Duke and Duke just kind of rolls with it, and I'm like, yeah, because that's what you should do, especially when you're a doomsday prepper. You're just
No.
like, well,
Okay, so I'm gonna say though, he does not roll with it healthily. I would say if a man murdered my wife, I wouldn't start hanging out with him as my new BFF for the fucking apocalypse.
yeah, that's true, but like
Yeah, it's kind of messed up.
it is.
Because like,
I
genuinely,
no, I was gonna
two
say
routes that
something.
we
I was
see
like,
them-
no, that doesn't really help it, does it? It
Yeah,
only makes it
Duke
worse.
Duke is like basically said, yeah, Brian may have killed my wife, but it was what we needed to do to get crack at the time. And well, my wife's dead now. I miss her dearly and fiercely to the point where my hallucinations are her fucking crawling on the ceiling yelling at me. But it's fine.
I mean, I'm feeling like you're missing the point with that, which is the end point of like saying, but Brian's still useful.
I will agree that Brian
Because
is still
there's
useful.
99%
yeah.
of everything Duke does can't be done without the muscle that is Brian.
No, I understand, and I would agree with that.
So, like, it
My-
is a situation
my
where, like, yeah,
stance-
no, it sucks,
my stance
but it's
on
also one of the
this-
things where he's like,
I don't.
but
see-
Brian's still useful.
I get you, and my stance on all this, and this is the thing that I'm still having like trying to like process and figure out is why Duke just never at any point in his life thought, hey, maybe there's another way. maybe I could leave this town. I could be a junkie in Peyton instead. Like, there's...
And it could, honestly, the answer to that could just be conditioning.
And that's the thing. That's what I'm looking for.
Like, why
And
did
there you go.
why did his
So-
grandfather stay?
well,
Why
so that's the
did
thing.
his father stay?
That's what I'm trying to now, like, figure out. And, like, I think that's it. I think that is truly it, is it's conditioning. I think that he has, like, a bit of a hero complex with this, and I think that he's got a little bit of, like, learned helplessness with all this as well, and he basically views that he's, like, cursed to stay in this town. Because
Little
his
bit,
grandfather,
yeah.
his
I kind of
father,
agreed that.
like
Like,
that's what I was trying to, like, figure out, and I think that's what makes the most sense, is he
I-
views that he cannot leave.
I was gonna say, like, I don't necessarily think hero complex is the right word, but I feel like you're on like a cultist. Like it feels like he's never thought about the concept of leaving because he was just born and trained not to. It's just, this is going to happen to me. I don't have a choice, but I do have a choice on how I handle it. He clearly doesn't like Brian, but Brian's still useful, and he's clearly, like, at least in my opinion, he's coming in from a perspective of, like, I hate Brian, I kind of wish he was dead, but Brian's useful, and I could use Brian for crack, and I can use him to actually force my weight around when things do go wrong. And as long as I keep Brian on a short enough leash, he's controllable enough to be useful.
Oh yeah. Anyway, we should definitely move on from this conversation. It's
Yeah,
mainly been.
but I also want to point out, like,
I was gonna say, yeah, you should probably keep things moving along.
yeah, I do want to say one final thing, and that is, Brian, for every terrible thing that he, like, all of the nastiness he listens to Duke. Like, if Duke snaps, he jumps. As much, and he hates Duke too. We've seen that because
Oh yeah.
Leo's route where Duke insulted him and he went practically ballistic about how after this was all over he was going to kill Duke. But he, like, every beck and call Duke has, Brian does it without question.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So here we go. He glances to each of us. Duke stops petting my arm and scratches behind his head.
Something. Someone told me that you would know.
I stare at him. Who?
Someone I know. And it makes sense. Something bad happens, and if you don't fix it, it won't stop coming after you.
I shut my eyes and almost sob.
Says they know, and I thought it had to be Leo or you, considering what we've been seeing these past few weeks.
Duke pauses.
Or maybe one of your other friends?
He looks over towards Jenna. She's silent. I don't know what you're talking about. I wait for another slap, but it doesn't come. I open my eyes again, and Duke is looking back out the window.
We're kinda protecting you too.
I stare at the back of his head.
Things are getting worse out there, and if we don't figure something out soon, we're all gonna die.
Duke's voice is dead and distant. Brian, though, touches my other arm, and I gasp, shrinking away. He's smirking down at me, looking at my stomach or crotch, somewhere around there.
Stop!
Duke has turned back around, looking over at me at the bear.
We're not getting anywhere right now, and I gotta get to town hall.
Even though Duke is the one who hit me, I'm terrified of the thought of us being left alone with Brian. Duke sees my face.
Don't worry, Chase. Even though you're lying to us, I don't plan on to let this pervert have his way with you.
Brian snorts.
Brian knows what will happen if he does.
Duke gives Brian a cold, callous stare, and this time Brian doesn't give his stupid grin back.
But you better fall in line and think real hard about what you're really doing here, Chase. 'Cause I'll be back.
Duke heads for the door, trying to look over his shoulder.
Just feed them and make sure they don't escape. That's it. And I'll need your keys.
What?
Brian snarls.
Heather took my truck, remember? You'll get back.
Brian sees through his large black nostrils, and I'm strangely reminded of Leo reacting to Jenna's chiding earlier. With a grumble, he fists around his sweatpants pocket. He takes a brass key from his keychain and pushes it into Duke's outstretched palm.
Thank you.
And with that, Duke briskly disappears out the door, a golden flash of late afternoon light illuminating the dim trailer. Brian and I listen to the weasel's soft, anxious footsteps recede into the distance. As soon as he's gone, Brian stands up. I turn my head in time to see him whirl around and smash his fist into the wall. I jump as much as I can in my restraints before he does it again, this time slamming both his fists against the wall.
Hey, Squeak!
The bear shoves his remaining keys into a drawer on the other side of the kitchen. He exhales loudly, staring at the wall and muttering something I can't quite make out. Brian remains motionless as he does so, unmoving as the minutes pass by. It's unnerving, but a welcome respite from the aggression being taken out on us. There's a window in the corner of the living room area that's mainly covered by an old wooden bookcase. There's no books in it, just mainly stacks of ashtrays, empty plastic bottles, and old appliance manuals. However, the top two shelves are littered with little knickknacks. Takes me a second, but I actually recognize a few of them as prizes from Southwestern Adventures. I'm reminded of the stuffed griffin I smushed into my suitcase back in the motel. If only we would have packed up and gone when we had the chance. There were other keepsake stuff back there, as well. A lot of stuff from the Blue Diamond Casino on the reservation. Travel cases, poker chips, canvas satchels, and even a mug with a smiling blue diamond and Masetta war chief headdress. It reads Chief Daddy in bold lettering. Is Brian a father? The idea seems unlikely. Brian stands on his tiptoes and peers out the little bit of window still visible over the top of the bookcase. There's a faint popping sound in the distance, like the 4th of July fireworks cracking off. I can't imagine why anyone would be celebrating at a time like this. But probably not fireworks. Brian flinches, a soft frown crossing his burly features.
Huh.
He hums to himself, brow furrowed as he takes a seat in the faded corduroy recliner, turning it in place to face us. His eyes shift over to me for a moment, and it's like he wants me to say something. I swallow. My mouth dry as a bone as I begin to speak. Do you think those were gunshots?
Worried about your friends?
Yeah.
Don't be. You should be the worried ones.
He smiles a big toothy grin, composed of what few teeth he has remaining. Oh. There's something familiar about his face now. My mind flashes with images of that smile peering at me from the end of my bed. Could have been one of those countless tight night terrors that I've seen when my body was still frozen with sleep. Unable to move, just like I am now. Except this is real. His gaze shifts to the rack and mirror beside me, and he's quiet for a while. He suddenly smacks his lips.
Keith. He truly was the best of us. Got me wondering what he'd do if he was around now.
Let us go.
Mike's quick-fire response elicits a solemn grunt from Brian.
You know damn well what he'd do. Golden rule.
Ah, so I should hit you with a wrench too then. Got one around here somewhere.
Bat promptly stops talking as the bear starts looking around the cluttered mess that is his trailer. Brian eventually stops, snarking to himself in a strange, nasally fashion. Fucking psycho.
Do you want to talk about Keith, huh? Well, alright.
Micah doesn't speak this time, letting the bear mull about.
First you gotta understand that I see things. I reckon everybody does here. Just a lot of folk don't like to admit it, or don't have it as bad. When I see things, I see it, I smell it, feel it, hear it, taste it, all 6 senses and what have you. When I was a kid in Peyton, I didn't see shit, even though I had a pretty fucked up childhood.
What, Sam?
Keyboard again.
What?
Well, I've
Oh,
been sitting
yeah,
on my
keyboard.
Well, I've been sitting on keyboard. Okay.
Oh. Okay. He's probably here to comfort you because this is about to get real shit.
Ah, okay.
My mom left me when I was 6 because my dad was a piece of shit. But you know, she's a piece of shit for leaving me with him. Anyway, you know where my dad told me she'd gone?
No one says anything until Brian turns back to look back down at Micah expectantly.
I don't know.
Brian cackles, and it sends a chill up my spine.
That aliens had taken her!
I press myself deeper into the wall, wishing I could just disappear in between the wood paneling.
Can I just say something real quick?
Yeah?
You're welcome.
Hannah, I love your Brian voice. But Sebastian, kudos to making it so terrifying.
Yeah, no, he's doing a very good job with it.
Oh, yeah, no. So,
Like-
yeah, your Brian voice is good, too, and everything. I am very happy with Seb's as well. And that's why I was like, this is really good that we've learned in one of our other little practices that Seb could do a good Brian voice.
Hannah, I love you, but I'm gonna have to go with Sebastian on this one.
Out there,
Sebastian, you make it sound like he's just about ready to rip out my throat at any second. It's terrifying.
thanks.
I like it.
Oh, okay.
Seb is like, I will take that as a compliment, I guess.
Voice acting compliment. Voicing Brian is kind of but I guess it makes it ick for everyone. So it's
Well,
fine.
I mean,
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, voicing Brian, like, I will say I am glad that I got that experience because Brian is probably one of the most out there characters from what I normally would do.
Oh, definitely.
But at the same time, I'm like, yeah, I'm not a fan of this character.
Oh, yeah.
well, I mean that lady who played the lady who played the one lady from Harry Potter. Yeah, I know. Very
Oh, Dolores
Umbridge.
Umbridge.
yes. I'm pretty sure she didn't like her role either, but she knocked it out of the
Oh,
park.
yeah, no.
She did
people,
such a good job
We
with
need
that.
people to play those heinous villains from time to time, and, like, yeah, obviously, Seb, you're doing a great job with it. We know you aren't like Brian, for damn certain.
Yeah.
Tom Hanks did a great job playing Colonel in the Elvis movie. He did such a good job that I hated Tom Hanks for a second. Like,
I do want to throw out there, I'm so glad that I never had to voice Brian, because genuinely, like, reading his thing, like, he would have been voiced probably by you or I, Harry, but I kept knowing,
Yeah.
like, in any scene that he was going to be in, he'd be interacting with a character that you or I were going to be voicing. So I'm like, it can't be the two of us, since they described him deliberately as a high-pitched voice.
The thing that makes me terrifying about voicing people like Brian is like listening to like Tom Hanks when he was talking about playing Colonel, or Leo when he was playing that Candy from Django Unchained. Like you have to, like they have to like actually become and think like that person.
Oh yeah, no, you have to dip into like that maliciousness, that like kind of like that urge, or not really an urge, but like that feeling of like you want to hurt someone for a moment when you're like
That
doing a character like that.
unhinged feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And
really
it
weird.
such things slightly scare me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think I had heard from somewhere that like, oh, what was his name? Heath Ledger. The reason
Yeah.
why he ended up passing away was because he was overdosing on sleep medications because he was having nightmares while he
Yeah,
was
like,
playing the Joker.
He went so far into that role that he actually broke his own sanity. That scares the hell out of me.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And hearing like Jamie Foxx and Samuel L. Jackson talking about Leo when he started playing Candy, and the fact that like Leo went from, and granted I'm not a big fan. I think Leo's a good actor, but he's a weird dude to begin with. But like he went from like, you know, happy, bubbly person as the role went on to like an actual like monster who couldn't look at them with any like love in his eyes. That scares me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
All right. You said this line, right, Seb?
No, not yet.
Okay.
I think he must have been drunk or high or both. But it stuck with me, you know?
I look away, trying to make myself look smaller, and avoid any unnecessary eye contact with him.
Then, when I was a teenager, I got myself a boyfriend. Well, more of a fuck buddy. We kinda hated each other.
I can feel him looking between Leo and I now. I have a feeling the bear is aware of our former relationship.
At least, it felt like that sometime. Fucker wouldn't leave me alone no matter how much he was saying I disappointed him. Gotta be my best self or whatever. He talked too much. But he was a good fuck and the only squeak I knew. So I came here every other week or so to fuck him. Things got a little better between us. And he convinced me to help him out with storing his old bar off of 6-5. It was a complete shithole. But he loved his vices. Booze, drugs, fucking, peddling, all that was like a dream to him. But then something weird happened on one of my trips out here when he wasn't around. Remember the moon was red that night because of the forest fires out west. I kept looking at it like, and that's when I saw a flying saucer. Like one straight out of cartoon with lights and a dome thing on top. I couldn't believe it. But there it fucking was floating through the sky. And you know, even though it looked stupid as fuck, I knew. I knew. It knew I saw it. And it was fucking evil. I just knew it.
Brian finally looks down at me again.
That night, and almost every night after, I'd wake up, couldn't move, and the aliens would be around my bed. And there was this one alien that I knew was my mom. She didn't look like my mom. She looked like an alien. But I just knew it was her. She'd do these things to me, sometimes to my mouth and eyes and nose. But usually to my squeak. Torture me. It felt fucking real.
Brian chuckles, still staring at Leo and I.
Fucked me up good. And I blame my boyfriend for bringing me to Echo, because I was sure that's where the evil came from. I outed him that year. Skull fucked him when his mom was still home and got caught. So he had to leave town because of it.
Micah's lightly fuzzed face seems to lose some color to it at that. his wide eyes shifting to the linoleum beneath him. The massive bear shakes his head.
Didn't stop the dreams, though.
So he just left us all behind?
Oh no.
Brian straightens up his chair, it creaking loudly.
He stuck around on the res on account of him being Meseta and all. Found him at a gay bar.
What does that mean?
It means I have an idea.
Brian stands up from his seat and disappears into one of the back bedrooms. He calls back to us.
Something to pass the time with.
Okay, so I'm gonna be honest here. This is where things are going to get really heavy, but I'm looking at the clock and I don't think we have time for that.
Okay.
So I guess we're gonna have to save this for next time.
Yeah.
Oh, fun.
Alright, say goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.